Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next interview for our upcoming Transfigured Nights concert on January 26th at 7 p.m. at Church of the Transfiguration in the Performance Hall. We will have music for Wind Quintet, and joining me here today is Willa Henigman. We are so thrilled to have you with us here today, Willa, to tell us a little bit about the program that we'll get to look forward to and your role in helping organize and put all of this together. Now, I understand you have been on many a Transfigured Nights program before, so I understand many of our patrons will know you, but would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I moved to Dallas in 1996 for a job in the Dallas Symphony. And pretty much right away, I began playing with the Dallas Symphony Woodwind Quintet, the Symphony Yes Outreach Ensemble, which goes and introduces the woodwind instruments to public school children and about fourth grade age. And so, but I've been playing quintets all my life. I started first, I played solo and ensemble. I think I was in the sixth grade. My band teacher got together a woodwind quintet so we could play a piece and learn a little bit more about chamber music. And so it's always been part of my career, even though it's maybe not my main job. So my main job is playing in the orchestra, but I've always had quintet as part of what I do. I really enjoy the woodwind quintet.
I love that, it's such different energy if you think about being a soloist, either in front of an orchestra or sort of a duo collaboration with a pianist, and then being sort of a member in a much larger ensemble. And then in the middle, we have five people sort of working together. Could you explain a little bit how you feel in those different environments and what that feels like for you?
Right. Well, I always really enjoyed playing in orchestra, being part of a large team of people and working together to make a whole picture for the audience. Can't do it alone, you know. And the woodwind quintet is interesting because it's basically one each of the woodwind instruments and plus a French horn from the orchestra. So it's sort of like the core group of people in the symphony who have to work together to blend and balance their sounds and everything. And then you take them out of the large ensemble and put them into this woodwind quintet, and they get to sort of hone their craft. So I feel like playing in a wind quintet really helps you play better in an orchestra. And in fact, my previous position to the Dallas Symphony position, I was in the Wichita Symphony in Kansas, and we had a woodwind quintet of all the principal winds. And we toured and made recordings and everything. We taught at the university, and we really had a wonderful bond because we worked together in so many different contexts. And we got to talk about the phrasing when we were without a conductor doing our own quintet programs. Yep. And then when we got into the symphony, we didn't have to talk about many things. We already knew how the other people around us were going to play. And so it was really very helpful. So chamber music is a wonderful opportunity to really get to know your fellow players. And Joel had asked me to do a quintet program because a few years ago, I had played the Hindemith quintet, which we're going to play next Sunday, on a program for Transfigured Nights. And he said, well, why don't you do that again? And so I tried to gather the same people who played it last time, and a lot of them were busy. And so we're going to have Helen Blackburn from the Opera Orchestra playing flute, and she and I did the Hindemiths together before. But the rest of the people this time are going to be some of my colleagues from the Dallas Symphony. And so I've played woodwind quintets with them a little bit, sometimes with these outreach ensembles. And so I just tried to come up with a program of things that we had done some together and some not. So there's one piece that we haven't done together before, and the two others, some of us have played it together and some of us have not. So it's so I'm the only one who's done all of them, recently.
The glue that holds everyone together.
Yeah. So, but it's really fun for me to be able to get all my friends together and work with them and in such an intimate setting and do this repertoire. So
yeah. How does that how does that work for you from, so with Wichita State and you're at Wichita Symphony, being able to have the kind of unspoken communication that was happening for you. And then you have very much these friendships with everybody that you're playing with on Sunday night, but maybe haven't played all of the same rep or all of the same players. And so what does that feel like to come together to make that group gel, as opposed to when you have something that is that unspoken connection already built in?
Well, we all know each other's playing pretty well since we are colleagues. We've played together
Sure.
before, so we won't be starting from zero. And we also have some familiarity with the works. Two of the works, the Samuel Barber's Summer Music, and also the Hindemith Woodwind Quintet. They're sort of classics of 20th century woodwind quintet repertoire. So many of us studied them in school and have played them before. And so it's sort of like an old friend coming back. But it's always interesting to hear what someone new that you haven't played it with before will do. And then the third piece that we're doing is probably new to most audiences. It was written by Valerie Coleman, who's a flutist and composer who is a member of the Imani Woodwind Quintet. And so she wrote a lot of pieces for her group. And so this is a piece, her Woodwind Quintet is a piece that she wrote for her group that we're going to be performing. And so it's really interesting. So it's from 21st century
Sure.
and has some dance rhythms and jazzy things in there. And so that's one piece that we haven't all played together. A couple of our members, we did it together. Three of us played it together a couple years ago. So
Oh, exciting.
Interesting to rehearse it again. So yeah.
That'll be wonderful to get to hear it. Now, in terms of texture and color, having sort of one instrument from each of the woodwinds brought together, how musically do sort of each of the instruments work, as feels like they probably each have their own identity in kind of the five member that helps gel this sound together so well. How would you describe that?
Right. Well, I'm glad you asked that, because unlike a string quartet or a brass quintet or even a
Sure.
choral ensemble, all of the members of the wind quintet make their sounds differently. We have
Yeah.
a flute, we have two double reed instruments, the oboe and the bassoon. We have a single reed instrument, the clarinet, and then we have a French horn, which is a brass instrument. Trying to have the notes speak at the same time. Each instrument responds a little bit differently, has different good registers and soft registers and loud registers, and to try to make that all mesh is very interesting. And some pieces are sort of designed in a way, maybe some of the older quintets written back in the 1800s maybe were written more along the symphonic lines, where the bass line would be played by the bassoon and the solos would be played in the flute, and it would be that sort of harmony. But some of the 20th century pieces that we're playing, it's the instruments maybe have a little bit more opportunity to come out and have their own unique sound and stand out for a moment of solo and then blend in with the rest. So it's a real challenge to play in a wind quintet, because you're not playing with instruments like your own. So it's not like me at the symphony playing in my oboe section, kind of knowing what to expect. The flutist and I have different response times, and takes more air to play the flute than it takes to play the oboe. So we have to plan breaths around that, what's going to work for both of us and that kind of thing. So it's really helpful, like I said, to know your fellow players. And since playing in the symphony, you're working with the same group of people, the same quartet of winds, and then the French horns are right behind you. So it's sort of like what we do at symphony, but we get to really pay attention to it in the wind quintet. Yeah, but it's a kind of one of our the flute player in the outreach ensemble used to call us a dysfunctional family.
Oh,
But I think it's actually highly functional. We're just each unique, and we bring our voice to the group, and sometimes blend it and sometimes separate it out.
Yeah. Well, and then how beautiful as a result of that, it sounds like in more modern repertoire, there has been a movement to allowing each instrument to really be themselves, right? And sort of
Mhm.
letting them speak in their own way as opposed to maybe an earlier style that thought more vertically and just said, okay, well, the flute's the highest, so it's going to get all the melody. This has allowed more of an understanding horizontally, appreciating the value of each individual member and allowing each one to sort of shine, and how that allows then different moments of texture to accompany and support it. And so, as with any dysfunctional family and or just in life as people, being able to, when we honor who one another is, that's when we are allowed to sort of find the greatest connection points, because we're all just able to be ourselves in those moments. So I think it felt really profound how you connected all of that. Well, we are so looking forward to the program on Sunday night. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know in advance?
I don't think so. I think if you just come in and enjoy it, we're going to enjoy it. We're all looking forward to it very much. We haven't started rehearsing yet. We're rehearsing this week and getting some hours in, and because there's some tricky spots, but
Sure.
but but yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And it's a lot of very interesting and colorful music. So you'll get to hear different sounds than
Mm.
you normally do.
That's
So
that's so good. It does raise one last question. So in sort of an autocratic group of five members and coordinating all of that, how is there a predetermined, everybody looks to you as sort of the oboe of cueing things? Is it somebody on the end? Is it just a group feel together? What does that ensemble work feel like?
well, it's really determined by the music. So at any given point in the music, if
Mm.
all of us are playing, we would normally look to the flute because their instrument is the easiest to see and the easiest to conduct with. But at any given point, if there's only three people playing together, whoever has the dominant role will be the leader. And that's the kind of thing you work on in rehearsal. You figure out what's important, what needs to be brought out, what needs to be diminished, what needs to be blended. And then you decide how fast or slow you're going to play it, with what kind of nuance. And then you decide who's going to be the one to give the cue,
Mm.
because we don't have a conductor, we conduct each other. And so we might be moving more than we do at symphony, because at symphony we're watching someone else
Yeah.
from above us. So, but we do, even in the large ensemble, we do cue each other.
Mm.
That's part of what we do as in our
Sure.
jobs as a symphonic musician. The concertmaster is definitely cueing the string
Yep.
section, and the winds are helping each other be
Yep.
together. So that's the wind quintets is just more obvious, and we have to plan it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
try to think together, but if we don't think together, then we have to discuss it and say whose idea. If we have different ideas, we have to decide whose idea are we going to go with, because we have to ultimately be a unit, right? So we
Sure.
have to be five as one.
Sure.
So
Well, we look forward to hearing you all operate as a unit and treat us with this beautiful music. And we will look forward to seeing all of you listening in on Sunday, January 26th at 7 o'clock in the Performance Hall. Thank you so much for your time today, Willa. I really appreciate it.
thank you. It's great talking to you.